Hi, I'm John Tomany from Sassafras Software. I'm a co-author of the ISO 19770-2 Software ID standard and the convener and a visionary behind the ISO 19770-3 SAM standard for software entitlements. I'd like to tell you about a very effective approach to software asset management that has been described as entitlement-based software asset management. The two primary goals of most software asset managers are software license compliance and software cost reduction. But in practice, more IT managers report successes with compliance efforts than with software cost reduction. This is often because of a focus on conventional or audit-centric software asset management practices, which seek compliance as the first goal and often never reach successful cost reduction outcomes. Sassafras K2, Key Auditor and Key Server, uses a non-conventional entitlement-centric approach to manage software assets and achieve both of these goals, cost reduction and software compliance, more rapidly and more efficiently than other software asset management tools. Many of the common SAM tools today base their understanding of license compliance on software audits and software file existence. This practice limits them to managing compliance for only installation-based licensing on physical computing environments. But K2's entitlement-centric approach broadens the scope of licensing that can be managed to embrace usage-based and subscription licensing agreements that are common in many physical, virtual, and cloud computing environments. Because of K2's primary focus on software entitlements, the true value of software assets, K2 is uniquely positioned to serve today's physical and virtual computing environments, as well as emerging cloud computing environments. And with a proper entitlement-based approach to software asset management, IT managers are able to achieve licensing optimization much faster, leading to greater levels of cost reduction than by using conventional audit-based methods. Let's compare the two methods and see the additional benefits that entitlement-centric software asset management provide. In most conventional SAM practice models, compliance becomes the first goal. The traditional five-step approach that has been taught for many years includes auditing deployed software, collecting proofs of ownership, and reconciling discovered inventory with entitlements. The first goal of compliance is targeted for Step 3. As the organization matures its practice, they establish corporate guidelines for ongoing compliance, and they improve their SAM practices so that they can reach for cost reduction. The problem with this model is that they don't get to cost reduction until they reach Step 5. In practice, over the years, I've seen many organizations never reach this level. For one reason or another, they get stalled along the way. Let's look at how the model changes as we approach it from an entitlement-based perspective. I've modified some of the steps and inserted a new step after number 3. Using an entitlement-based approach with Sassafras K2 gives us flexibility to set our initial goal either for compliance or for cost reduction. The reason for this is that we are collecting usage metrics from the very beginning. And as we collect our proofs of ownership, we are setting up active policy management, which is a way to closely monitor usage metrics and also restrict access to licensed computers and users. By taking these steps, we can reconcile against both usage demand and against deployment to accomplish our two goals at the same time, compliance and cost reduction. The important fourth step that has been inserted makes it possible for us to circle back around after our initial reconciliation, adjust deployment to meet demand, and ensure compliance with installation-based licensing models. We identify the unused software assets during the reconciliation process in Step 3 and make both deployment and licensing level adjustments in Step 4. Using K2 for entitlement-based software asset management We get to cost reduction much quicker, and compliance tags along for the ride. To review these two SAM models, conventional software asset management is audit-centric. It has a predisposition with file existence as a licensing metric. It typically operates under the initial mantra of, if it's installed, I need to license it. It does not initially examine usage and demand, and it often causes delays in getting to cost reduction. When we change the model under K2 to one focused on entitlements and usage metrics, we can choose cost reduction as our first target. And when we do, compliance comes along for the ride. We reach them both at the same time. Here's a look at how this plays out in the Sassafras K2 entitlement-based software asset management tool. We have a reconciliation window for Microsoft Visio showing current license position for both Visio 2007 and Visio 2010. We're going to look at entitlement and use status for Visio 2007. On the left, we see 45 licenses purchased and entitled, and 47 being managed. We can see the management policies on the right, one for 45 licenses and another for 2 licenses. Right away, we see one potential problem that needs to be addressed. We need to discover whether the Microsoft Developer Network copies need to be licensed or whether they are covered by our MSDN contract. For now, we'll just move on to examine the 45 licenses being managed by our standard Visio Pro policy. When we look at our management policy, we see right away that we have 3 unused licenses. The numbers next to the computer list tell us that 42 computers have received licensing under this policy. A closer examination of those computers will show us how many are being used. Here is K2's compliance and optimization report for Visio 2007 licensing on those computers. This report window has been shortened to fit on the screen, so not all computers are displayed. But the report tells us that 45 computers either have the product installed or have an entitlement granted. And it shows us where we can take some steps to optimize and reduce the costs on Visio licensing. The report is sorted by the last used date, and at the top we see the computers that have used Visio recently. The license is locked to these computers and everything is in good order on them. Below those computers is one item that recommends that we unlock or harvest the license. The reason for this is made clear on the right. The computer no longer has the software installed. Immediately below that computer are numerous computers which had not launched the software in 90 days from the date of the report. A recommendation is offered for each one that we may want to unlock the license, that is, reclaim it, and uninstall the software from these computers. Below that section is a computer which has the software installed, but does not have a license granted to it, and incidentally has never launched the software. The recommendation here is to uninstall the software. At the bottom are the 2 computers which have been granted licensing from the other policy. These are the 2 MSDN licenses. Now let's look at how K2's entitlement-based software asset management with active policy management can get companies to cost reduction and compliance very quickly. This report comes from a manufacturing firm with 16,000 computers. They had experienced a downsizing in operations and they needed to right-size many aspects of their software asset management ITAM program. They needed especially to find ways to reduce costs. In the first 4 months of engaging an entitlement-based software asset management agenda under Sassafras K2, they discovered through usage analysis that less than 10% of their Microsoft Office users were using Pro Tools. Fortunately, their EA agreement was coming up for renewal, so they modified the agreement for the Office Standard Edition for 90% of their end users. The next thing they did was to identify 7 applications that each had over 1,200 unused copies. They harvested these licenses, uninstalled the software, reduced their maintenance contracts in some cases, and redeployed the software to other computers in other cases. The same 7 applications had over 2,200 rarely used copies, so they introduced application kiosks for more efficient licensing. And then 2 applications that were licensed for over 8,000 computers showed a concurrent use of less than 10 at any one time. So they renegotiated their licensing contracts to a concurrent use model. In the first 4 months of implementing Sassafras K2, their combined total savings in software licensing and maintenance exceeded $1 million. The University of Michigan was one of the early adopters of Sassafras K2, and over the years they've accomplished some remarkable results in software cost savings through using K2. Here's a summary of some of those results. They were able to consolidate many small pools of licenses around campus and reorganize them by license metrics across campus to save around $325,000 annually. By using K2 for trending analysis, they were able to identify a more cost-effective licensing option for Adobe software, saving themselves around $250,000 annually. In their first year, they cut software licensing costs by $2 million by renegotiating contracts to more favorable terms that aligned better with their actual usage patterns. Other examples of savings experienced by the University of Michigan included a 60% reduction in Microsoft Office student access licenses, an analytical project that they named their Software Capability Roadmap that eliminated duplicate functionality of competing software products, and a hardware and software budget forecasting process. As an IT asset management pioneer and leading innovator since 1989, Sassafras has earned a reputation for reliable, extremely stable products, unparalleled license compliance functionality and reporting, and world-class free technical support. Sassafras enjoys broad support from software publishers, including many technical partners that rely exclusively on K2 technology. For 24 years, Sassafras K2 has supported software asset management activities on some of the largest computer networks worldwide. In 2010, we entered our K2 SAM tool into the annual CODI competition, and we were awarded the title of Best Asset Management Solution by the Software and Information Industry Association. For more information about Sassafras software and K2, Key Auditor, and Key Server, you can visit our website at sassafras.com or drop us an email at info@sassafras.com.